the modern research suggests they are probably giving some immense advantage to human potential. How the meditative processes came into the mainstream science, not just they are adding therapeutic value. Let's look at how research came into the space of meditation in the last 5 decades and what we have now found out as the potential or the power of meditations. In the morning on the 9/11 attack on the Pentagon, Lieutenant Colonel Steve Z was in his office, and it was in a moment at 9:37 when the entire building of his office collapsed and he was under the debris. In few moments, there was a huge, massive explosion, and it was explosion of that plane which has crashed into the building. But Steve survived. Reason was he was under the cover of the debris, and later on when he was rescued, he was not much affected. He was fortunate because more than 100 people died in that office, but he survived. But the problem was he was having a terrible mental condition. This condition usually known as the post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, and he was having a problem of thinking everything around him is a survival trait, whether it is people, whether it is lift or any other thing. So that was terrifying and very uncomfortable for him. But thankfully, Steve could find a therapist who took him through mindfulness processes and he could come out of this terrible condition. Now, the mindfulness processes which got integrated into the mainstream science and therapies has given immense benefit to thousands of people across the globe, and this is probably a blessing. Watch this video till the end if you want to know what are the things which research has found out about meditative processes and how they can give you something incredible. The last one, which is my favorite, which is done by a Nobel laureate, suggests something unthinkable. Watch this video till the end to find out what is that incredible thing. Credit to the application of the mindfulness techniques in therapies in medical science goes to John Kabat-Zinn. John Kabat-Zinn was a PhD scholar in the area of molecular biology in the MIT. And during that time, he got exposed to the mindfulness techniques and many other Eastern philosophies. And somehow he was very convinced that these techniques and these approaches can help people overcome their problems with regard to mind, including pain management, stress management, anxiety management, and so many other things. And in 1979, he rolled out a program called the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. And this was extremely effective in helping people managing their stress, managing their pain. And as the study goes, in 2015, more than 80% of the medical schools across United States, they follow mindfulness-based techniques in some form to help patients overcome the challenges of stress, pain, and other similar conditions. How this all happened? What are the things that got established? Let's go through the entire journey, how mindfulness-based training they came into the mainstream science and how some of the research findings are mind-blowing. You'll find that some research suggests mindfulness training can bring us some kind of extraordinary powers. It can give us some kind of human potential, which probably every one of us we crave to have. I'm going to take you through a few research studies which have been done, including my favorite, which I'll bring in at the end. And this is by a Nobel laureate who says something incredible about the power of the mindfulness practices. So let's get in. In 2003, John Kabat-Zinn collaborated with a contemplative neuroscientist, Dr. Richard Davidson. In the modern era, probably one of the person who has done maximum number of studies on Buddhist monks. But this time, John Kabat-Zinn and Richard Davidson did a study on corporate executives, where two groups of people were there, and one of the groups, they were given training on mindfulness-based stress reduction. And this continued for 8 weeks, And following that, they did some study on these two groups, and what was found out was amazing. First thing that they could find out, that the people who were doing MBSR or mindfulness based stress reduction processes, they were having far less stress and anxiety after the completion of the period, during the period as well. Now that was very much evident because they were going through these processes, but one thing that they found out was amazing. When they actually studied their brain parts, they found that the brain parts which mediate positive emotion, typically the left prefrontal lobe area, that part, the activities have gone up. So the activation of the left prefrontal lobe area has significantly gone up, kind of giving an indication that positive emotions are more prevalent in these set of people. And even more fascinating was they wanted to have some kind of study on the immunity level of these groups, and they administered flu shots on both these groups to check what is the immunity level. And astonishingly, they found in case of the meditative group, the antibodies developed were far more compared to the non-meditators. This suggests that the immunity of the meditators or those who had gone through MBSR processes has increased just within a period of 8 weeks, and that's incredible. So by following meditative processes, we can significantly improve not just our ability to create a default state of positive emotion, we also have the power to improve the immunity of our body. Not just about the immunity, John Kabat-Zinn also could establish that mindfulness processes help healing, and it can heal your disorders or your diseases much faster. Apart from this, they also wanted to know mindfulness processes or meditative practices. Do they affect the capability of the mind in terms of the cognitive capability, in terms of thinking, in terms of being creative or improving memories? So many experiments were also conducted to find out whether meditative processes do they help improving the power of the mind. One of the experiments was on finding out the effect of mindfulness on attentional blink. Let's first understand what is this attentional blink. This is a condition where our brain takes a pause. Like the eyes blink, similarly our brain takes a blink. And during that time, we would not be able to see or receive some input even if the stimulus is available in front of us. To understand the attentional blink, psychologists have got a typical experiment. They would flash some alphabets and some numbers on a computer screen, and the subjects, the people who are participating in that experiment, they need to remember the numbers only, or they need to identify and tell the numbers only. Let's say the sequence is 3 alphabets, then a number would come, then again 2 alphabets, a number would come, and usually the time gap between the 2 alphabets or numbers is 50 milliseconds. That's 1/20th of a second. Pretty fast. Now the subject is trying to remember the numbers. So 3 alphabets, then a number, then again 2 alphabets, number would come, another 3 alphabets and a number would come, and they have to identify the numbers they see on the screen. And usually what they find, normal people, they miss out the second target if it comes within half a second, and the brain has taken a blink. So during that time, if the next target comes, the mind doesn't capture it. In 2008, Helen Slater wanted to conduct the same test to understand the impact of mindfulness on attentional blink. So she trained people for 3 months on mindfulness processes, and then she worked out the same experiment. And what she found out is attentional blink has significantly come down for people who had practiced meditation for 3 months period. So within only 3 months, the attentional blink has significantly reduced, indicating that just by practicing mindfulness processes, we can improve our brain resources significantly. This is a huge finding in the area of cognitive neuroscience, and also how mindfulness processes affect and improve the power and resources of the brain. If you love the content of this video, Do subscribe to the channel so that you can get more videos on brain, mind, life and related issues which can help you immensely to change the quality of your life. Now coming back to our discussion on various experiments on meditative practices. Another scientist, Anthony Luch, in 2004 wanted to conduct one experiment to understand whether the meditative processes are impacting the high amplitude gamma wave in the brain, in the neurons. Let's first understand what are these high amplitude gamma waves. In the brain, there are neurons or nerve cells, and these nerve cells have got electrical activities. That means they flicker. They are either in switched on mode or switched off mode. They flash because of electrical activities. These flashes, they happen few times in a second, which is known as the frequency. If a particular neuron is firing, let's say 20 times in a second, that means the neuron frequency is 20 hertz. Hertz is a measure for frequency, how many times the neuron is firing within a second. Now this frequency has got significance. Under different frequency, the brain has got different conditions, and high amplitude gamma waves, they are there in the brain when the frequency is very high, in the range of 40 and above. And in that condition, it is seen the human brain is extremely creative, and typically it has got ability to learn faster and also to comprehend things in a much more integrated manner, because at that frequency level, different parts of the brain, they get integrated and our perception improves significantly. And Anthony Luch, when he conducted this experiment for the meditators, he found something astonishing. He found out that the meditators are generating a lot of high amplitude gamma waves in the brain during the time of meditation. And not just that, the more fascinating thing was, even when they are not meditating, the baseline gamma wave activities are far higher compared to the non-meditators. What it suggests is, through continual practice of meditation, the generation of the high amplitude gamma waves happen in the brain, and not just that, they remain, and the baseline high amplitude gamma wave activities are higher for people who are regular meditators. This means that they understand things much better at a deeper level, they have better memory, and also they have better learning capabilities. And these breakthrough findings are certainly something which can encourage everyone to embrace meditation in life. In 2005, in another experiment, Harvard professor Sarah Lazar found out something amazing. She found out that the thickness of the cortex, the outer layer of the brain, which is so important for the executive function, for memory, learning, and other capabilities which are human, is thicker. That means cortex thickness is higher for people who are meditating compared to people who are non-meditators. And this is something very interesting, because with our aging process, the cortex of the brain gets thinner and thinner, thereby reducing our mental capabilities. Whereas people who are meditators, it seems the thinning doesn't happen much. In some cases, even they found out the cortex is becoming thicker, what they termed as cortical thickening. And this happens for people who are undergoing meditation on a regular basis. And this was again a path-breaking experiment to establish that meditation is so important for the structural changes in the brain as well. And this finding is my favorite. This is by Elizabeth Blackburn, who got Nobel Prize in the year 2009. Elizabeth Blackburn did extensive studies on telomeres. Telomeres are the ends of the chromosome, protecting caps of the chromosome in the cells of our body. What she claims that telomeres shortening leads to physical or biological aging process of the cells. And the telomere shortening happens with every division of the cells. What Elizabeth Blackburn suggests, based on her research, is by meditative processes, the shortening of telomeres reduces significantly, slows down significantly. That means through meditative practices on regular basis, we can reduce our pace of aging, and by that we can improve our immunity, improve our functioning of the critical organs in the body, and also our mental and physical health. This is huge. That means by embracing meditative processes, we can improve our quality of life in terms of our immunity, in terms of our brain capability, and also we can slow down our aging process. But how to do meditation? If you want to know about doing meditation with simple steps, do check out on this video and do practice meditation on a regular basis to get all these amazing benefits in your life.